Well, hello. We are in here today. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy to have bumped into you online, and we have a lot in common, not only type 1 diabetes, but just our love for keeping ourselves and our head and our mental state healthy, right? And that's an ongoing job. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your diagnosis story. And yeah, our listeners would love to get to know you.
Okay, yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I'm so excited to be here. So I'm Lauren. I've had type 1 for 45 years. I just had the anniversary in July. I was diagnosed at age 3 in 1979. So I did not have the insulin pump that I am so blessed to have today. I was peed on a stick. That's how I knew what my blood sugar was in
I remember those
1979.
days. Yes,
I'm
it
sure
brings
you
back
do.
memories.
Yes, exactly. Um, so I struggled growing up with type 1. I did not have gratitude in my vocabulary back then. I really, really struggled with what I call poor meism. I thought life was not fair growing up with type 1. I compared
Mm.
myself to other people with diabetes, and I felt like they had it together. Why am I struggling with diabetes when I felt like they had it together compared to me? And I compared myself with my friends who didn't have diabetes. Like, why do they get to eat whatever they want? And I had to prick my finger and, you know,
Hmm.
have my uh, diet so limited. My parents also were really involved with what is now Breakthrough T1D, but was
Mm.
JDF at the time.
Hmm. JDRF, yeah.
Yeah, JDF then, JDRF now, Breakthrough T1D. And I felt like not only did I have this condition of diabetes, but I was dragged to these charity events on the weekends. And I didn't have the verbiage of, what we now have as mental health, and I didn't have the language to express my emotions. So it was like
Mm.
silent suffering, right?
Mm.
I didn't have the ability to express my anger or my frustration, and I felt like I suffered in silence growing up. Um, yeah, so it wasn't until I started working with a life coach in 2019 that I felt like I really got my power back and I changed my mindset around type 1.
Yeah, yeah. I can relate to all that. So you were 79 diagnosed. I was 82. Yeah,
Okay.
same. Just lack of everything. And you felt isolated. You felt like you were the only one in the world that had it.
Yeah.
I wasn't even connected with any sort of, the JDRF, none of that. I was
Really?
very, 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 very isolated. Yes. Almost to the point where I didn't even have diabetes. It wasn't even, there was no conversation really about it. I just took my medicine, peed on the stick, really poor control. My parents were very removed. And I just think it was just a matter of lack of education. So
Yeah.
they didn't really understand the disease. So we chose not to even look into it. It's just really strange when you think back. You only kind of navigate what you know at the time. And at the time, it was just, I didn't know much. So
Yeah, and it's amazing how you can use
really,
whatever you have against yourself. Whereas
mm,
I was surrounded with all these other kids and I felt like they have it so together. They're so chipper and cheerful. What is
mm,
wrong with me? Why am I struggling and they're not? Which, of course, you have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. You have no
that's
idea
for
what they're
sure.
thinking. There's probably a really good chance that they were also suffering and we were suffering in parallel when we probably could have bonded together and really communicated with each other. And,
Hmm.
one of the things I've learned now is you're never alone.
Yeah.
And the
Mm-hmm.
community, this Breakthrough T1D community and the type 1 community has been my salvation. And
Mm-hmm.
we could have used each other, but they were the enemy in my mind
Isn't
then.
that something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know we're going to talk about mindset, but everything has its timing. I guess it just wasn't our time back in the early 80s to blossom. Gosh, often say I could probably write a book. I think every one of us on this planet could probably write a book. Our stories are just so, um, obviously unique, but just to kind of tell a story of where we were and where we are now. So what about mindset nowadays? I know you work with clients, patients, and on this topic. And so what, to clear out, just to clear out the
Yeah.
junk in the brain. So, to manage blood sugar in life in general. So,
Yeah.
what's, give me some examples
Yes.
and,
So I'll tell you just a little bit about the journey and then kind of what I do with the junk in the brain
the junk in the brain.
that I talk about. So how it happened is I kind of developed this narrative growing up, as we were talking about, that because it's amazing what we can convince ourselves of. And I convinced myself that you got diabetes and you suffered. That's it,
Mm.
right? There's no happiness for life with type 1 diabetes. It's just that was our destiny. You got diabetes and you suffered. And I mean, I was put in therapy. My parents did put me in therapy, and it helped with a lot of other things. I developed OCD and other things, but it didn't help me change my mindset about diabetes
Mm-hmm.
specifically. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I started working with a life coach that everything started to change. And I'll give you an example of how my life coach helped me. And then I realized that, oh my gosh, my first realization was actually other people probably are suffering. I'm not the only one. And that
Mm.
I can help other people who could also be suffering. So the first example that the first big aha I had with my life coach was that I was looking at the world through this lens of poor me, this
Mm-hmm.
victim mentality, if you will. I don't love that term, but it's kind of like this, the world is happening at me. And that
Mm-hmm.
because life isn't fair, right? Of course it's not fair. It's not fair we all have diabetes. It sucks we have diabetes. It
Mm-hmm.
totally sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was showing up to the world with this like lens of poor me, it was affecting everything in my life. It was
Mm-hmm.
permeating everything. So for example, I've used this example a lot, but I think it's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I'd walk into the CVS or the Safeway and I get on the long line, right? There's always a long line and a short line. And I get on the long line and I'd think, of course I got on the long line. Like the long line happened at me. But what I didn't see is that there's 20 other people on this long line and that I didn't look at what was in my control. Like I could get off the long line. I could pick up a magazine and read the magazine. I didn't notice the poor cashier whose first day on the job it was. I didn't think I could come back tomorrow. I didn't look at what was in my control. And I didn't look at how thinking that the line was happening at me, what energy that was creating for me, and
Mm-hmm.
that it was creating a feeling in my body, and that I was showing up to the world with that like poor me energy and all the results and the effects it was having in all of my life, and that I had the power to sort of take off that like poor me glasses, and that it was affecting literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of was this like, oh my gosh, like the way I view my diabetes was like permeating every area in my life.
Mm. Yeah.
So it was very, very, very powerful. And I started, so the way, and that sort of ties into sort of how I approach my clients, in that it's like, if you're stuck in your diabetes, there's a very good chance you're sort of stuck in like all areas of your life,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
we have so many inputs in our brains with diabetes. There's so many decisions we make. There's lots of things that we're thinking about. There's lots of thoughts that we have. The victim mentality is just one, or the poor me is just one. And so another example is, sorry, do you mind that I'm just going on?
No, please do. Please
Okay.
do.
Have you
Yes.
have you ever been really, really late to something? You're so late, you're so stressed out, you're running out the door and you cannot find your keys. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
literally you cannot find your keys. And then somebody with a really calm brain walks in the room, and like a husband or a roommate, and they're like, your keys are right there. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I swear
Yeah.
I looked on that in that spot.
Yeah.
So what I do, does that make sense? You know
It
what I'm talking
does.
about?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We never see what's right under us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
obviously. Yeah.
yes, because stress can't see through stress, or overwhelm can't see through overwhelm. When our brain is so full of junk of decisions to make, of stress, of overwhelm. We cannot see that keys that are right under us.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do with my clients is I help clear out that junk. I help get to the root of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, whether you're looking through the lens of victim mentality, what is causing that junk and that overwhelm. So you can show up with that, like, so you can show up just like the friend or the husband. So you can see with like a calmer, clearer brain
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
you can make better decisions about your type 1 or so that you can just focus on like life and not
Yeah,
on your diabetes. Does that make sense?
absolutely. It really does. Yeah. And something um, some things that I've looked at, and, we talked about each of us seeing life coaches, therapists. Yeah, there's somebody I see on a regular basis, and we can get stuck in our own head too. We think everything's about us, because we're so used to everything being so centered around what we have to take care of every day. It turns, and I have to check myself on this. It's not all about me. It's not all about what I need to do today, what's on my to-do list or whatever, or just my feelings, my responses to what's going on. It's easy to get stuck in our own little box. And I think that can be over consuming as well. When we can obviously look outside the box, look at other people, the people around us, like you were saying, we all have something going on. And I think that helps take when we're less focused on, when we can just naturally get to that point where we're not as, kind of laser looking at all of our stuff. Um, it's easier, I think, to go through the day to day when we can think about other things, other people, other situations, kind of take the spotlight off of ourselves. I don't know if this is something that can resonate with you, but this is very real and relative to me right now, because I'm going through some challenges with my health, and it's like you wake up thinking about it, you go and we would wake up thinking about our diabetes every day. It seems like we're always thinking about what we need and where our blood sugar is, and all those responses, what food we got to eat, all the things.
Yeah.
And then when there's something else, it can be very self-consuming. And to me, that can be very dangerous as well,
Yeah, absolutely. It helps, absolutely helps to be able to like get outside yourself,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And then also what helps is when you were so close to our own brains that a lot of times we need somebody else to show us, like, to reflect what we're thinking. Um,
Oh, yeah.
like when you said something, I don't know if this is what you're saying or if this is similar. But like when you're saying you can't see what's right under you,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of times we need that. That's why like the best life coaches also have a life coach, or the best like therapists also have therapists,
Yep.
because you could be the best therapist in the world, but you're still too close to your own brain to see it.
Yeah.
So you need somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm holding my hand up for those who can't see.
Yeah. Same
You need,
here.
you need somebody else to show you what's in your brain, to
Mm-hmm.
reflect your own thoughts, to show you, because just because we have a thought does not make it true. We are
Mm-hmm.
like, our thoughts feel so real. They
Mm-hmm.
feel so true, and they're very rarely true because
That
we tend
is,
to the negative.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I think that is the benefit. And, there's so many pros to having somebody in your life, like yourself, myself, that we work alongside people one on one, and we get to know you personally for sure, because that's what happens naturally over time, spending with you and working on all these different aspects of your diabetes health and your emotional connection with that. But it's an unbiased relationship. And that's really what therapy is.
Yeah.
Somebody that you can trust, lean on, go to, that's going to give you gentle nudges. And
Yeah.
that's what we do as therapists, as coaches, to hold you accountable. That's definitely, and I think the plus with you and I is the fact that we also live with diabetes. So there's a relatability. to that. Like my therapist, for example, she is also a Christian, and that's very important to me. I purposely sought out a woman that is a believer in Christ and a follower of Christ, because that's the mindset that I want to keep my spirit in and my energy. And there's enough of the world coming at us that is not honoring God or, his intentions or my purpose here. So that was a choice of mine as well. That's very important to me. So, but I think it's important to find somebody that's going to help fill that gap for you, and just to kind of get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. Somebody who understands, but also doesn't buy into their belief. So, for example, if I have a belief that, like the example before, I get diabetes and I suffer.
Mm.
Or if you came to me and you said, diabetes sucks, just, I got diabetes and I'm going to suffer. It's my responsibility as a life coach to be like, give me the facts.
Mm.
What are the facts? Tell me the facts of that story. And you'd say, well, I have diabetes. Okay,
Mm.
yeah. When were you diagnosed? Well, I was diagnosed in 1982. That's a fact. What else are the facts? Well, I'm suffering. Okay, but how are you suffering? Like, there's other, like, how are you suffering? Well, this went wrong and this went wrong, but you could also tell me a good thing that happened in your day. Well, this happened and this happened and this happened. So you could possibly be happy, right? And so it's
How
like
about that?
fact versus story. So it
Mm.
is my job as your coach to not buy into your story, not buy
Mm.
into that thought, and to show you how your thoughts are not true, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
we get it. We get it. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So tell me some other aspects that, and I'm sure all this began with yourself, because I love how you're just weaving in your own journey and your own story.
yeah.
So where has this been taking you? And if you can give us some, examples and,
Okay.
something else, yeah, give us some examples of some people that you've worked for, kind of worked with, and kind of their before and where they are now. I love those.
Oh
I could
yeah.
share a handful of them as well. I won't do that today, but I love that because that's what we do. We latch on to you in a, sweet way, and we kind of walk that walk with you. So yeah, tell us some examples.
Okay. So client examples.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Um, so okay, so I think I won't use names if that's okay.
Oh no, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
definitely not.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, we'll protect them.
they've given me I have a couple that give me their have given me their permission, but I just won't use I won't use names. Um, so I have one client who I'm trying to think, I'm trying to do this in a way that shows specific tools. Because I know you and I talked about acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So one client came to me and and a lot of my clients are actually, I hope this is okay because it's not 100% your audience, but
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, my clients tend to be 18 to 25.
Mm,
But it still showcases the tools.
absolutely.
Um, so one client came to me feeling just, and this is a general theme among my clients, hopeless, um, hopeless, um, just I don't want to use the word depressed, but like hopeless, isolated, just missing um herself, like wanting her life
Mm,
back. Really, that's the general theme. Hopeless,
yeah.
missing her life, like wanting her life back. She had just been diagnosed a couple years earlier.
Okay. Okay. That's an important part of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
She was just trying to figure this out.
Yes,
Yeah.
she was a sophomore in college.
Mm,
So that's just a tough age anyway.
it sure
And she had
is.
been diagnosed at 18
Mm,
and sophomore in college and just totally isolated. And I mean, I could like cry. I'm so proud of her. She's now graduating
Mm,
college, and she's just
mm,
like a thriving 24-year-old, and she is now just got a job as a nurse, and she just like got her life back. I mean,
mm,
that's really what it is. And a specific example, because you and I talked about acceptance, is she, so actually, let me backtrack. So she just slowly but surely, I mean, that's the beauty of this work is it's slow. It's
mm,
slow. She
mm,
started becoming aware of her thoughts and her feelings and how her thoughts were causing her feelings.
mm,
And it just was a slow work. So I'm trying to think how detailed to go. But one example of
mm,
acceptance was she was resisting the pump. She was
mm,
on shots, resisting the pump because the pump meant that diabetes was real.
mm,
And one of the big pillars of my work is acceptance, accepting that you
mm,
have type 1 and not
mm,
being in resistance of it.
mm,
Resistance looks like if I didn't have diabetes, then life would be better. And grieving the loss of life, before diabetes, or grieving the life of what life would look like if what life would look like if you didn't have diabetes. And
mm,
so
mm.
getting the pump meant to her that diabetes was real. So we just
Right.
worked a lot on that. And
Mm-hmm.
then she decided to get the pump, and like life got exponentially better when she got the pump.
Isn't that something? Yeah. Yeah. It was a visible reminder of
Yes.
it's almost that feeling that diabetes wins. It's like, okay, I just got to give in. But that's part of the acceptance,
Yeah.
and there's so many, I think I shared too. I wrote an article about this. I call it the ABCs, and it really is just like you say, our philosophy is very much similar. And that might be the fact that we've had diabetes the same amount of time. We're about the same age. I
Yeah.
think that really is. There's beauty in growing a little older and growing the wisdom and learning along the way, but just accepting and then just believing that we have the tools. And she's an example of somebody that when she got this tool that obviously opened up more freedom,
Yeah.
and I get freedom, because I mean, I'm still multiple daily injections, and I am really thinking about getting on a pump just based on a
Mhm.
couple different things. I think I'm just going to probably take that leap sooner than later. But just accepting that and being, just to have the gratitude of the things that we can use the tools to better, to take care of ourselves. I think there's a lot of power in that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And something that worked for me, and it sounds like it did for your client too, is that you're now looking at, and this is what I'm doing in my space, because I used to think diabetes was a burden. But now I'm seeing it. No, this was something that I've been able to figure out and live very well with. And my purpose here is to share that with other people. So
Yeah.
I'm turning it into a purpose for sure.
Yeah.
And she will find, I'm sure she and many people listening will find ways to turn their diagnosis into something good. It doesn't have to be, again, that ongoing burden and feeling resentful, really.
Yeah. And one of the things we did, I'm just thinking about some of the tactical tools, is I had her write down a list of like, because it's a grieving process, right? So what are
Mm-hmm.
all the things you can't, I'm putting in quotes, can't do, or that you are grieving the loss of now that you have type
Mm-hmm.
1? And she
Mm-hmm.
like, it's like, what are they? Let's get into it. She
Mm,
wrote down all the list of things that she can't do, because a lot of times it's so much worse in your imagination. So she wrote all the things that she can't do, and we just looked at it. And she just grieved it, but and just processed it, right? A lot of it is
mm-hmm.
the awareness and then the processing of it. So she just grieved that list. Then we went back and got into it, and it's like, and literally, let's say there's 20 things on the list. I think 19 of them she could absolutely still do. But she
Mm.
tricked her brain into thinking that she can't do it, right? And I don't want,
Limitations. Yeah. There's
right? Like,
limitations.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like one was like a traveling something. I don't
Yeah.
want to give away her stuff, but it
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, I can't do that because I can't travel with diabetes. It's like, but can you?
Right.
So I think there was like one thing on the list that was like something emotional, like a life without worry. Okay, I can't give you that. I can't give you a life without worry. But you
Right.
have the tools to manage your worry and
Right.
reduce the amount of time you worry. But I can't give you a life without worry. But 19 of the 20
100%.
things she absolutely could still do.
I love that. Yeah.
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 So that was
Yeah.
like one of the, like a tactical acceptance tool that we,
Right. Right. Getting your power back. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. You did a recent post on Simone Biles. Speaking of power, and because the 2024 Olympics in Paris was it just happened here, and yeah, she's amazing. So can you give us some kind of highlights of that post? Basically, you were just talking about prioritizing mental health, and she, in that space, obviously they are in an area of their life that there's pressure on all different scopes.
Mm.
But it's, obviously hers is gymnastics and a sport and the media and that attention. But it's all very relatable to us. We don't have to be on TV to have those same sort of struggles that we're mentally just trying to, again, accept and to gain, some wisdom around. But she's an example. Obviously, she works with somebody to help her through this process. So tell us about, the points that you made in this. Just
Yeah.
talking about Simone Biles, the goat, right? The goat is
Yeah.
it's,
I don't even have it in front of me, but I can just talk about what I was thinking when I wrote it. I
mm-hmm,
just think, first of all, anyone who brings such awareness to mental health,
mm-hmm,
is just, I'm so inspired by. And she brought such awareness to mental health and prioritizing it in such a way, I was so inspired by. But I know one of the examples I used was when we try to push through a low. Like
mm-hmm,
I know for me, I know even recently I play tennis and actually pickleball with friends, and there'll be times when we'll be in pickleball. There's four total, including me. I'll be
mm-hmm.
in the middle of playing, and my blood sugar will go low, and I'll just want to be like, "It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Let's keep going," because I don't
We've
want
all
to be
done it.
that person that burns the
Mm-hmm,
rest of the group.
mm-hmm.
Um, but it's important to prioritize your health. Um, and I I think I'd put in there because I think I'd put in there, um, our thoughts create our results in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of, if the thought is, because I put it all the way through, if the thought
Uh-huh.
is, I don't want to be weak, right? It's like, I don't want to be weak. Like, I know I've had that thought before
Mm-hmm.
where I don't want to seem weak by like being low in the middle of a pickleball match.
Yep.
And if I
Yep.
push through a low, I just get lower, and then it makes the low even worse. And
Yeah.
then I am lower for longer.
Yeah.
It pushes the match even like
Yep.
longer. And
Mm-hmm.
then I end up being even weaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's
right? Like
so,
what you
yes.
focus on expands,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
you know?
That's such a perfect visual. It really is. And we've all been there. We know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Those of us living with type 1.
Yeah.
We will hide it. We will dismiss it. We will ignore it. We will just hope that it corrects itself sooner than later. It's
Yeah.
funny because before we hit record today, my blood sugar was at 63, and I just had breakfast, and I had a slight arrow down, but I have my glucose tabs here. But we were able to go on. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I'm functioning, and I'm already 87 going up. So yeah, the chia seed pudding is definitely doing its job.
Oh, good.
But that was an easy thing because you gave me permission to say, let's, we can wait. We can just hold off. We don't have to start right now. Take care of yourself. And I push back a little bit. I'll be honest. I know my trends, and I know that it will come up. So, and it's so easy to overtreat. So
Yeah.
out of fear, I would have taken 3 tabs. And
Yeah.
then I'd probably, by the time we get done talking today, I'd probably be shooting close to 200. So there's such a balance there. What's the best decision to make? But like you say, the number one goal is what's the best decision for me at this point,
Yeah.
to serve me and to not put me in any danger, obviously.
Yeah.
But the mind is so powerful around yeah, that word weakness. Like
Yeah.
we've got to take a step back and give in. But yeah, sometimes we do. Sometimes we got to take a step back and give in, don't we?
Yeah, because the
Yeah.
truly strong thing to do really is to prioritize yourself and say, hey guys, I just need 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's unbelievable how supportive and
Oh, people are there for you.
yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they don't have to have diabetes to be there for you.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let your friends in, share what you, yeah, share those opportunities. Yeah. Yeah. They're
Yeah.
definitely good
Yeah.
teaching moments.
But
Yeah.
also the other important part, which I don't think I put in the post, is there's a word. It's a just the oh it's not going to come to me, but
That's
just
okay.
it's a it's a math term. It's like the dividends, when dividends
Yep. I
when you
know the
invest
term you're talking about.
when you
Yes.
invest and you get
Yes.
dividends for years and
Right.
years and years and years to come,
Right.
when
Return on
you
investment, ROI.
yes, there's something. There's something. Oh my
We'll
gosh.
call it that. Today we'll
Yeah.
call it the ROI.
But this is
Mm-hmm.
I was just giving little examples like stopping a low or when
Mm-hmm.
you prioritize your mental health, like for example, when you need a break and you
Mm-hmm.
take a walk outside to like get yourself back into a calm place, which I haven't even talked about the nervous system, how
Yeah.
important that is.
Yes.
But I know you and I talked about this before we hit record,
Yeah.
but seeking help and the
Mm-hmm.
return on investment. Yeah, you just said it. The return on
Yeah.
investment in terms of
Absolutely.
seeking help and like
Yeah.
learning tools to
Mm-hmm.
improve your mental health is so important.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's jump over to that nervous system. And I want to really I want to talk about seeking help because that's huge.
Yeah,
And that's something I think I really want to emphasize today. And I love that you're here to help me do that is for women our age. Okay. We're in our mid to late 50s. Why is it so much hard? And we'll start here. Why is it that we can't seek help? Why do we think we've got it all, that we can do it on our own? We'll figure it out. Even though we're overwhelmed with information, we're just going to sift through it and kind of, hope that it, gets thrown on the wall and sticks. It's kind of like the spaghetti. But I think that's where really more frustration and feeling of kind of a loss in it. And I think it's just compounded when we get older. And I hate to
mm-hmm.
say it, ladies, but things change when we get older, hormonally, demands, when the nest is empty, things change. And then you're compounding that with a disease that doesn't have a day off. So and I don't know if you're working with women our age, what is the typical, what's going on? What's going on in our brains when we're living with type 1 and we're, in menopause, approaching menopause.
You may have more insight into the menopause
Mm,
hormonal piece. But I think with women, I think there's a whole bunch of reasons. I think there can be um, the people pleasing aspect where
mm,
we're taking care of, we're prioritizing, we're putting other people first.
mm-hmm.
There's limiting beliefs. Like for me, I think this, especially when it comes to type 1, is I had that limiting belief that you got di you have diabetes and it sucks. Like diabetes just sucks and that's it. So I started working with my life coach because I was unhappy in my job.
Mm,
So my life coach is a good friend of mine from we worked in the corporate world together. So I just started working with her to get a job I was happier with. I started learning the tools and I started applying the tools to type 1.
mm,
So when I was like, wait a second, like I actually can shift my mindset around type 1. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, my beliefs about type 1 are literally permeating every area of my life.
mm-hmm.
So I think limiting beliefs are one of the reasons people don't get help. I think
Yeah.
it's not believing that they can be happy. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
also a lack of self-worth. I think the
Oh, yeah.
self-worth is a root, root of a lot of it is if not believing that you are enough, like
Mm-hmm.
enough as you are today. So
Mm-hmm.
not believing that you're worthy of happiness
Yeah.
stops a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's definitely a lot of layers to that for sure. And
Yeah.
you brought up a good point. I think especially the older we get, because we've tried a lot of things, and in air quotes, we've not succeeded in a lot of things. So I think that's what just keeps knocking down the vision that they can feel better, that this step that I make, is going to finally get me over the edge, or, the good edge, not falling off the cliff edge. But yeah, I think that's really what it is. And we don't know until we try, until we take that step. The first step is always the hardest, isn't it? You got to
Yeah.
trust. Yeah.
Yes, in
Yeah.
fact, I have a friend who has type 1, and I offered her free coaching for exchange in her advice on like some marketing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, honestly, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what the heck this coaching stuff is.
That's
And
a
so
good point.
I think we did like 3 or 4 sessions. And she was like, oh my gosh, I feel better. She's like,
Mm,
this is awesome. She
yeah.
really liked it. And like, just
Yeah.
like you said, she had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
actually try it. I
That
totally
is true. Yeah. And I think that, the coaching and the therapy model is still something people are getting used to. And I think part of it is letting go, realizing that someone else might come in and, they're going to come into your life. But it's always a partnership. We're not giving you a rule book. It's not about that. It really is just getting closer to who you are and, what's important, and just trying to kind of amplify that. So
yeah.
that's simply what coaching is. It really is. It's amazing. So you were just mentioning, just talking about the nervous system. Tell us, this is impactful.
I
And
know. I'm
again,
looking at the time. I'm
hormones.
like, I almost need a whole podcast for this one.
Yeah, I know it. And
I
we'll
know.
definitely touch on it.
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess
Yeah.
what? Hormones. This is all wound
Yeah.
up in one little basket.
Yeah. I know. I'll do my best to do this quick, although I do, not to shamelessly plug, but on my website, I do have a whole webinar on this nervous system.
Mm.
So you can just like stick in your email and download an hour-long webinar if you're
Oh,
interested.
perfect. Yes.
But basically, the nervous system, really what this is, it's like the biology of stress, if you will. It's like how your body reacts to stress. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in the most simplest terms, we are programmed for survival. So if the brain detects a threat,
Mm-hmm.
all resources become unavailable and we
Mm-hmm.
go into survival mode. And so what I mean by resources, I mean critical thinking, impulse control. So insert image of like eating everything under the sun when your blood sugar goes low. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so overtreating a low is not your fault, just
Yeah.
if you're wondering.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
when I say that when your brain detects a threat, I mean a real threat or a perceived threat. So a real threat is like tigers chasing you down the street, or your blood sugar's 40. Or a perceived threat is your blood sugar, or your kid's blood sugar, by the way. Parents' nervous systems react to
Yeah.
what's happening with their kids. So
Mm-hmm.
perceived threat is your blood sugar or your kid's blood sugar is 250 and you see those double arrows down. So if
Mm-hmm.
you have a Dexcom, I cannot tell you how many people tell me that they see those double arrows down and they immediately feel panic.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So like
Heard
I
that
have,
too.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
have like a love-hate, honestly, relationship with the technology. I think it's mostly love, but from a nervous system standpoint,
Very triggering. Yeah.
some of these
Yeah.
alerts, I mean, I took a screenshot of one of these alerts because I use it in my class as an example. It's like critical alert with red letters and a danger sign. And
Mm-hmm.
all it told me was like, I lost data on my pump,
Mm.
right? So think about
Mm-hmm.
from like a nervous system standpoint. So basically what
That's a good
happens
point.
is our brain perceives a real or a perceived threat. The brain does not know the difference. Our brain is always scanning for danger. Am I safe? Am I in danger?
Mm.
Am I safe? Am
Mm-hmm.
I in
Mm-hmm.
danger? And if it perceives a threat, it sends a signal to our nervous system, and our nervous system sends us into survival mode. And when I
Mm.
say survival mode, I mean fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Mm.
And again, like in my class, I go into like the differences between all four. But for simplicity's sake, fight or flight there is a difference between the two, but fight or flight essentially is that like activated, like, if you're driving down the street and you almost get in a car accident and your
Yeah.
heart's beating and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, you feel the adrenaline.
Adrenaline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think we all are probably familiar with like fight or flight.
Sure.
And then, your breathing returns to normal and you go back to that like calm, and it's called the window of tolerance. That's like that calm.
Mm.
And then freeze is picture like deer in headlights. Like, when the deer freezes in front of your car when it sees the headlights, it's frozen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know if you all have, I know I have like frozen, like public speaking. If I panic and I lose my thoughts and I freeze, that's freeze.
Yeah.
Or also, when you're like isolated at home, you just want to crawl into bed, scroll on Instagram, and you feel disconnected, like you don't want to see anyone. That's another form of freeze. That's like that
Mm.
isolated, just want isolate from the world, not talk to anybody. You feel like my clients a lot of times come to me and like freeze. They're very disconnected. They're hopeless.
Mm.
So that's freeze. So no, these states are meant to protect you. Like nothing has gone wrong when you're going in and out of these states. The problem becomes when we get stuck in these states, right? Like
Mm.
we're on high alert living with type 1. So we're constantly sort of going in and out of these states, or we get like stuck in these states. And I'm sort of like on this mission to teach people with type 1 about these states because it's really important to start to become aware when we're in these states and how to get ourselves back into that calm window of tolerance.
Mm.
Because the more we bring ourselves back into that window of tolerance, so picture a Dexcom, for those who know a Dexcom,
Mm-hmm.
I think of the window of tolerance almost like the time in range.
Sure.
And
Right.
unlike the time of range, your window of tolerance can grow. And the more you bring yourself back into that calm state, the more the window of tolerance grows. And like the easier it is to get yourself back into that state.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I can give you a couple of
Yeah.
tips of how to do it, but does that
You
make
know,
sense so far?
yeah, it sure does. I love this. This is so, 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 so good. And that's a great way for us to just kind of segue over tips. Yeah.
Yes,
So you've
yes,
shared so many great things today. So
yes,
maybe we can walk away with some of these tips.
yes,
You gave us a little teaser.
yes.
And we can definitely hop on it. And I'm going to link this in the show notes, a way for them to get on your site and to get this recording, basically, right? It's like a
Okay.
video lesson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So tell us the
the
tips.
first thing just to do is just start to pay attention to your body. Because how often are we really paying attention to what's happening in our body? So just
Mm.
start to build that awareness. Like your body knows. So just start to pay attention when your dextrom goes off. Like what's happening? Am I activated? Do I have extra
Mm.
energy? Is my heart beating fast? Is my breathing shallow? Do I want to just start to crawl into bed? Like just
Mm.
start paying attention. That's the first.
Mm.
But the simple tips, these are so simple. It's just that a lot of times we just don't think to do them. So it's three basic things. And also now that you have the verbiage, if you've never heard this before, you can literally Google regulating your nervous system and there'll be a
Mm-hmm.
thousand things that come up. But
Mm-hmm.
the three tips are um, uh, connect, breathe, and move. So connection is huge. So especially if you're isolating, but connect. So connect with a loved one. Your nervous system regulates with other people's.
Mm-hmm.
So connect with a loved one, connect with a community, Breakthrough T1D, or just your other type 1 community. If
Mm-hmm.
that feels too hard, just like connect with nature, like put your feet in the grass. So connection. Number two is breathe, like just deep breaths. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
because for sake of time, I'm not going to sit here and tell you like do box breathing or just breathe. Like
Right, right. Just remember the
pause
purpose.
and
Mm-hmm.
do like any sort of deep breathing. There's so many resources out there also.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is movement. Movement is magic.
Mm.
So walk around your house. I have a tiny apartment. I just walk around my apartment. If I'm starting to feel activated, I just like walk around my apartment or just like a
Interesting.
quick walk around the block or just
Mm.
like shake it out. put on some music and dance,
Okay.
movement.
That's amazing. And you know what it sounds like to me, because you're talking about, and this can all happen within a couple minutes. Obviously,
Yeah.
this is your response to this sense of stress,
Yes.
whether it's perceived or actual. Um, it's really kind of stepping outside of your thoughts. It's like, well, the first part is connecting, because you've got to get in tune with how your body's responding to what you're perceiving. And then the next steps are just, when you say things like connecting. So it's like, you want to take our thoughts away from what we're thinking about or worried about. And then the other part of just, moving the body. To me, it's inward, but it's still outward, because you're doing something different. It's almost like you're taking yourself out of the situation. Or
Well,
does that make sense?
the one thing that's really important is that when this is happening, you are a passenger in the ship. This is
Mm,
happening. This is happening without your control. So if your brain senses danger, sends a signal to your nervous system sends you into like some sort of fight or flight, and your
mm,
critical thinking goes offline
mm,
or becomes unavailable. So you're not really thinking. And that's why if like a client comes to me who's like really activated, it is it's really important for me to sort of sense that. I'm not going to be very successful coaching them. So this is like, it's not really about thoughts. You're not really, this is like the keys example. If someone's like can't find their keys and let's say they're probably really activated, they probably can't find their keys because they don't have access to their critical thinking. So
mm,
this is sort of, but you said a really good thing. I think you said breaking. Like this is like stopping, breaking from whatever they're doing. Like if you're trying to work on a presentation and you're feeling really activated, you don't have access to your
mm.
logical thinking.
That's true.
So if you're noticing that you're feeling really activated, it's like stopping, breaking from whatever you're doing and
Yeah.
like taking a walk around the block,
Hmm.
some deep breaths, maybe call a friend, and like just trying to get yourself back into that window of tolerance. It's
Yeah.
like, and like
Yeah.
you can feel it, like can try to like
Hmm.
connect back into yourself and like, is your breathing returning? Like, do you feel yourself getting back into that calm state? And like,
Yeah.
can you like connect with your thoughts again?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does
It's
that
almost
make
like,
sense?
yeah, absolutely. It's almost, like we have to disconnect in order to reconnect.
Yeah.
We got to unplug, step away.
Yeah.
And the breathing is that's something I've been talking about and practicing myself for, and you mentioned box breathing, which again, it's so easy to do, but it's amazing what it can do just to calm the sympathetic, the parasympathetic
Yeah.
nervous system,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Exactly.
and again, it's something that we have attainable, that's easy to do, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can definitely, it can just spark that, or I should say, it'll take the spark out. It'll actually just calm. So, yeah,
Because
really good stuff.
yeah, and one last thing, because a lot of times this will happen while we're sleeping. We're
Mm,
sleeping, our Dexcom goes off, we're frustrated, and instead of like ruminating while we're sleeping about how annoying diabetes is, it sucks, it woke me up, I was sleeping.
been there.
It's just right. We can
Yeah.
say, okay, I'm probably in some sort of like activated state. I may be in fight or flight. It's not my fault. This is biological. Just gonna like do some deep breathing. Gonna walk
Mm,
around my apartment. Actually, it may sound counterintuitive, but I'm gonna get out of bed. I do this
mm,
thing called legs up against the wall, which is like
mm,
magical for going back to sleep.
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do something to get my biological state. It gives you sort of like a why. Why do I feel so activated? I'm gonna do something to like get me back to my window of tolerance and then go back to sleep. It just helps, I think, instead of like fighting. It's like working with yourself instead of against
Against
yourself.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good examples. Really
Yeah.
good examples.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And, I feel like we could talk about this all day.
I know.
Yeah,
It's been over.
it's,
Sorry.
yeah, no, it's perfect. And, yeah, our community and our listeners, the ladies need this. This is something I need this.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a constant reminder of things that really do help, serve us and our journey with diabetes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Fun time.
Yeah, it is. So share where our listeners can connect with you.
Okay. The well, God, I have so many
That's
website.
okay.
They all go to the same place.
Yeah.
The T1Dlifecoach.com.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll definitely going to connect with we're just stumbling. I'm stumbling.
So much.
I know we're recording this earlier in the morning, so and it's not that early, but it's just anyway.
Yeah.
I'll put all this in the show notes. Make it easy. Click it over, and they can connect with you on social media as well. So,
Wonderful.
yes. Well, I would love to have you back another time. My brain is going on because I know we just touched on this topic, and
Yeah.
it's so important. I think I mentioned when we first met that I've always, I went into coaching with more of a black and white task-driven management of blood sugar and living with diabetes. And little did I know, I had to look at my own self and realize, no, we need a lot more than that. It is really the emotional and the relationship with the disease. It starts there. So that is where I've revamped my coaching based on that. It's amazing what things happen. And we learn from our clients, our patients, and we continue to learn. So yeah. So keep in touch with Lauren and be sure to check out the link here in the show notes and share this show. This is important. Take a screenshot or just pop the link of the show into your over to a friend, somebody else that needs to hear this and that needs to know about Lauren. So again, have a beautiful day, and we'll be back in here same time next week. Bye for now.